Everyone who's joining today, thank you so much for joining us. Today's presentation is really going to be focusing on the importance of email marketing. I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, Erin. And with that, we have a special guest. Erin is on our, is a business development. Erin, do you want to do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a
Thank
business
you.
development. Yeah, no, I work on the sales side, but I work with our brokerages and our brands here at ActivePipe, and even agents. So yeah, excited to be on.
Yeah, thanks for joining and thanks for introducing yourself better than I could.
It's all good. I barely know what I do.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get started.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, like Devin was saying, today we're going to talk about just high level, what people are doing when it comes to digital marketing in general in this industry, and like why is email an important tool in your chest when you're thinking about, how ultimately you're marketing your business. Um, and obviously where ActivePipe fits into the picture there, and just some use cases and all that kind of good stuff. Um, so let me get on here so I can. Perfect. So one of the ways to kind of think about, you know, marketing in this industry in general, there's a lot of different ways of going about it. There's a lot of methods, and there's typically, three channels that I think a lot of companies utilize when it comes to, marketing their business. Social, email, price per click, retargeting ads. Those tend to be very common ones that you see in this industry, but you can kind of delineate them in like two categories. And we call it like interruption marketing and permission marketing is two kind of categories to think about. Interruption marketing, that's the one that's like grabbing your attention, right? That's where you see like paid ads. What it's trying to do is like interrupting your search with a better option, quote unquote, right? And this can sometimes have a negative connotation, right? I think it's a lot more common now than I think it used to be maybe 10 years ago. So, people get what it is. But, when you have an ad pop up, sometimes it can have a negative connotation, but what it really is good for is creating new opportunities, right? People you haven't talked to in the past, that aren't in your sphere necessarily. It's a great way to create new opportunities. Permission marketing is where you essentially have some type of permission to be able to reach out to them. They're in your network now, you know them in some way, and that's where you see social and email come in, right? This is where those ultimately come in. And where permission marketing tends to be utilized is on the nurturing side. So if you think about interruption marketing and permission marketing, you can pretty much separate them as capturing and nurturing. That's another way to kind of think about them. Capturing, that's the interruption. New people I haven't talked to in the past, getting them in some way as a lead. I'm capturing that person's attention, right? Nurturing, I already know them, trying to either convert them into a new opportunity or nurture them over a long period of time. So why is it so important to be putting such a big focus on nurturing, right? A lot of money goes into capturing right now, especially in this industry. A lot of money goes into lead generation. There's a lot of studies that show that you actually can get a much higher ROI if you're actually putting a lot of focus into the lead nurturing side. Some even stats that we're seeing out there, you can generate 50% more sales at a third of the cost by doing lead nurturing, right? And which as you probably could guess, because the capturing side, when you're doing retargeting ads, all of that tends to be very expensive. A lot of money goes into that. On the nurturing side, it's very scalable. It's something that you can do, a lot of, and you're not necessarily paying more as you're doing more of it, right? And that's one of the benefits of the nurturing side. But why is it becoming so much more important these days than it was in the past? Is that the consumer has changed in how they're purchasing and how they expect companies to be interacting with them, right? So, for example, you can see here in 2015, it took about 4 months and 6 touch points to convert and inquire into sale. That's actually still a lot. The average that you'll see right now in terms of how agents and brokerages tend to nurture their leads right now, you'll see probably around 1 or 2 times that a company will reach out to a lead. You reach out once, you reach out twice, you don't get a response, you move on, right? But in 2015, it was around six touch points. But now it's over 6 months, 10 and sometimes 10 to 14 touch points you can see is what you typically need to do to be able to nurture a lead over a long enough period of time. So it goes into why is it so important to be putting a lot of your efforts and time and thought into the nurturing side. So not only is it affordable and scalable, but it actually is becoming more and more important in terms of how you're interacting with your consumers, right? And so email is one of the most important ways of going about that. Again, if we look at the top typical ways that people interact, social, ads, email, right? Email tends to be one of the best options to go about, the nurturing side of things. It's extremely scalable, right? Everybody can easily use it. If you are on this call and you're someone who runs a brokerage or runs a marketing team, right? A big focus is we want to make sure we're bringing in tech that's easy to use and effective. Email tends to be very easy to use. You can go after every type of market segment, right? It's not, like social and retargeting ads can oftentimes you need to be very targeted with it. Where email, you can be much more expansive with how you're doing your outreach. And again, the cost is quite low when you look at the other options. It's also much easier to measure your success. With social, one of the biggest complaints you tend to see out there when you're doing social marketing, it tends to be very difficult to measure, like, how well am I doing, right? Who's interacting with my content, is effective. Retargeting ads, you can do a little bit better. You got a little more tracking there, but still can be difficult. Email can be very simple on how to actually, especially if you're using the right program. I believe ActivePipe is one of the best ones, but ActivePipe as an example has great tracking that not only tells you, okay, who's clicking on what and at what time, but also gives you what they're likely interested in based on those clicks, right? So that's really important on the tracking side, which can help you decide, okay, how am I going to be changing and augmenting my content going forward based on how people are interacting with it. It's a really important one. And so that's why, when we get onto the targeted part here, it becomes extremely important to be much more targeted with your marketing in general, right? There's an old saying out there that the best type of marketing is hitting the right person with the right message at the right time. That can be difficult typically to do at scale. You oftentimes see in this industry can get a very bad reputation when it comes to marketing in general, because we don't have a ton of time on our plates, right? So a lot of us, we want to reach out to people. We're looking to be able to just press a quick button, send stuff out, but that can actually hurt us at the end of the day because it could be impersonal and it's not very targeted. And you got to think about what the consumer is receiving at the end of the day and what they're looking for. And if they get something from you that isn't really relevant for them, it can have the opposite effect on your brand. So being very targeted with your content has become much more important than it used to be, even more than you might think. And these are some crazy numbers that that came out of Salesforce research recently. When I saw this, I was actually blown away. But 73% of customers expect companies to understand their needs and expectations. That's pretty crazy, right? So 3 out of every 4 people that you interact with expect you to know as a business what their interests are, right? That's a pretty big change in how consumers interact with companies from the past, right? Especially, if you think about, brokerages and agents used to be the first stop that people would go to when they're thinking about purchasing or home, right? That changed when Zillow came on the market and the internet and all of that. But there's still this expectation that, me as a consumer trying to buy or sell a home, that I expect the brokerage down the street to know what I'm interested in. But even more so, not only do I expect them to know what my interests are, but 62% of people expect the company to know if those have changed, if to be able to adapt and change how you're interacting with me based on my actions and behavior, right? Another crazy concept that a lot of people aren't realizing or thinking about when they're doing their marketing is, your consumers not only expect you to know what they want, but when their interests change or their behavior, based on their behavior, that you are also reacting to that. And the average agent has anywhere between 500 and 2,000 contacts in their database. And you're 73% of them supposed to know what they need and when they're changing. Obviously, that's a big, high task, right? So that's why it becomes so important to be leveraging tools that make it much simpler for you, right? Well, a little bit ago, we talked about why email is so important, why it's so good for this industry. Tracking is a big one, right? Understanding the behavior and interests of your database goes exactly to these numbers that we're seeing here. is that you can say, okay, I sent out an email to 1,000 people and 100 of them clicked on it, right? That simple, action is extremely important. And you can act upon that action and say, okay, those 100 people, I'm going to put them down a different pathway. I'm going to market to them differently than the other 900 because they have shown some type of behavior that tells me that they have some type of interest. So I'm not going to be marketing to them in the same way. That's a simple example of how, you can be hitting that 62% situation here, right? Of companies need to adapt based on the behavior of their customers. That's a simple example. Email is a very easy tool to be able to do that at scale. And you can see some of the, some of the outcomes of that here, right? So MailChimp is a fantastic tool, right? It's an email marketing tool. It's a fantastic tool. It's just not focused on real estate. So they don't have exactly like all of the tools and bells and whistles that Actipipe has that are focused purely on what are buyers and sellers, what is this industry, ultimately focusing on the industry and what the needs are there. So you're going to see a difference in just outcomes there because Actipipe, we're very targeted. We're very, we have a ton of tracking and reporting on what your contacts' interests are, and we help you augment your messaging based on their behavior, right? MailChimp has to focus on 1,000 different industries. So, they're not going to necessarily focus on the real estate and say, okay, we're going to build in triggers based on if somebody clicks on a property, right? That's just not their focus, which is fine. But this is an example of like when you look at a company that's very targeted for the industry and what the needs are of the consumer in that industry versus one that's more utilitarian for everything, it goes to that whole idea of making sure you're sending the right message to the right person at the right time and using tools that help you to actually be able to accomplish that. Devin, I think you wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about some of these slides.
Yeah, before you go to this slide, I was just thinking as you were speaking about some of the things that ActivePipe can do to help adapt, what type of messages and emails you're sending to your contacts. Another layer of that is our smart matching capability, which literally tracks what types of homes your contacts are, selecting and interacting with, so that the next time you send an email, it'll actually send those specifics. So if Billy Bob Joe is, only clicking on 3 bedrooms, the next time he gets an email from you, it's going to show the 3 bedrooms first, which is, making your life of having to constantly adapt to what your contacts and customers want so much easier.
That's actually a really great point. It's a good example of, again, a tool that's built for specifically the consumers that you're interacting with. And this example that Devin gave is used a lot in other industries. We all see it. And some of the best companies who are really just, killing it, what they have done is they've really mastered what this customer experience is, this client experience is. And what Devin is referring to there is used, for example, we see it all the time with like Amazon as an example, right? So I had a baby recently. Before I had a baby, we were shopping for maternity stuff on Amazon, and Amazon hit me up 3 months later with diapers ready to go, right? It knew I was going to need that at some point. It hit me at the right time with the right content, so that type of concept has worked really well for the consumers in other industries. Real estate is no different. So what Devin just mentioned there is an example of that, is how that works in our industry, and is just as effective and just as important when we're trying to provide value to the people reaching out to. Is that, okay, if I'm going to interact with properties on an email you sent me, the next email that I get should be more targeted, right? Not everybody's doing that very well. But those who are, you're keeping engagement of the content of your consumers. They feel like you are changing the content based on what their interests are, even though that's happening automatically.
And the best part about it is that it's as simple as just literally turning on a button in the emails that you're sending out. So you don't have to do the discovery work of actually figuring out what they want. We have the back end tools and data to help you do that.
Exactly.
Awesome. So this is my very ugly slide. I did my best to make it look like a cloud. Thank you for everything that you went over, Aaron. It was awesome. I learned a couple of new things. I wanted to dive into some results that we got from a survey that we sent out last week. We sent out a survey to some of the agents that we have in our customer base that are sending the most emails, and wanted to understand a little bit more about how using ActivePipe has affected their sellings, getting new listings, all of that. So this first slide right here is actually just a little word cloud. We did have a section for comments. You'll see the bigger words are some of the most words that we got. So love and active pipe, those were frequently used in the comments. So I just wanted to share a couple of quotes because I thought they were great. One was, "This system is great and allows me to stay atop of mind with all past clients as well as new ones. ActivePipe helps me keep my name and business top of mind to my clients. We love ActivePipe. It really helps us stay in touch and engage with clients. Easy format and easy to use." And then ActivePipe is directly responsible for my current $1.1 million listing, which is pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah. So next slide. So on this survey, we asked for 4 questions. The first one was, how many properties has ActivePipe helped you sell? About 30% of the agents that we surveyed, we got about 55 responses. So this is sample size of 55. 30% of the agents sold 5 or more homes with ActivePipe. And one agent actually in particular mentioned that they had a total of 219 sales and leases, and another sold homes that totaled over $6 million in sales. So just wanted to share these kind of bits of information just so that you guys can see how effective this tool can be for actually getting you all listings. The next question that we had was, how many listings has ActivePipe helped you win? 40% of the agents won at least one listing and found at least one client a new home with ActivePipe. A lot of people use the word like countless listings instead of an actual number. Some use too many to count, but many agents actually said that they won at least 5 or more listings, which is awesome. The next question was, how many new clients have you helped find new homes using ActivePipe? About 42% of our agents found at least one of their clients a new home. A lot of the agents said that they found between 10 to 100 of clients new homes this past year, and some even mentioned 50 to 100 range, which is spectacular. And then the last question was, how many leads have you generated with ActivePipe? 50% of the agents have generated at least just 2 leads by using ActivePipe. And 2 agents said that ActivePipe helped them generate at least 100 leads in the past year. But most of the responses were actually in the 20 to 50 range. So again, just reiterating that that email marketing is beneficial, and clearly other agents are seeing success. And I think that's it for those slides. And then Aaron, I wanted to pass this back to you because it sounds like you had a personal.
Yeah, this is just like a real life example of a company that did a great job of, again, thinking about, okay, what's going on in the current market right now? How do we augment and target our marketing based on that? And so McInerney Associates, company out of the DMV area, DC and Virginia and Maryland, with the big, listing shortage that a lot of us are seeing right now, they wanted to put a big focus on generating new listing opportunities. And they got very targeted with their marketing. And about 50% of the agents in the first 2 weeks got a listing appointment from the campaign that they had run. And it was very simple. It was ultimately targeting people based on the area and saying, hey, not sure you realize what's going on in your particular neighborhood. Here's what properties have been selling for. Here's what the changes have looked like. Do you want to set up a listing appointment? At a couple different triggers based on their behavior. And, just a simple idea like that, the average consumer doesn't necessarily know what's going on with the real estate market. All of us do because we're in the industry, right? But the average consumer doesn't realize that their home might have gone up in value significantly. And just getting in front of them, with content that's very targeted and personal made a significant difference. So it's just a real life example. This was something that they were reacting to. What is the conditions of the market right now? And they're able to very quickly pivot their content and see results from it. So just another example of how you can easily move with email effectively.
Awesome.
And I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Just reiterating on this listing shortage, I have lots of customers that have been experiencing the same. And just like Aaron mentioned, changing that content rather than sending people, listings in the area, creating new emails that are just about all of the properties that you've sold, highlighting your success, and then showing the stats in the area, and then even giving them a home value assessment and letting them understand how much their home is worth right now. And obviously by proving what you've sold, proving value to them. So please talk to your CSMs if you guys want some examples of great recently sold listing emails that have really helped with listing requests. And we may be doing another webinar just on how to get more listings next month. So stay tuned for that as well. Erin, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, I learned some new things, so I really appreciate your time, and hopefully our audience learned a couple of new things as well.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone. This recording will be posted to activepipe.com webinars, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, guys.